You're listening to the Hella Well with Danielle show, a podcast taking women of color on a journey exploring all things wellness and travel related. We're all about showing you how to put on your oxygen mask first and creating lasting self-care habits that will free you to travel the world and live the life you truly desire, and not one you have to fake loving. I'm your host, Danielle Washington. Now let's buckle up and start this journey. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Hella Well with Danielle podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Washington, and I just got back from Bali. I was there for a retreat, and it was interesting. I've gone to many different retreats. I also organized my own retreats, but this was the first time at a retreat that I was asked to give my undivided attention to myself. I was like, okay, this should be easy. I'm totally always good. I would do this all the time at home. And it wasn't. It was definitely a task that was challenging, not just for me, but my other participants in this retreat. And, again, I thought it would be easy for me because Bali is where I gave myself my undivided attention. When I went there the last time in 2019, I guess it was a time where I specifically went to Bali to turn off my phone, get off of social media, be by myself, and give myself my undivided attention. What I saw different from this time and last time was, last time I was escaping to get to Bali. I went to Bali to escape my life and escape being around everyone else. And I was alone. And so it was much easier when you're escaping and you're escaping to be by yourself, it was completely easy to give myself my undivided attention. Where this one was different was I was in a group setting and being asked to give my undivided attention. On top of that, I wasn't escaping. This time I was inviting the opportunity. And it's different when you are in a different mindset, when you are escaping versus inviting yourself to have an opportunity to give yourself all your time and your attention. We give our time and attention and our energy to everyone else but ourselves. But it's something that we don't often give to ourselves. And so it was a great gift to myself. But again, that gift came with a lot of challenges and moments where I was like, I want to give up, but I don't want to give up. But I just had moments where I was like, I don't know how to do this. Like I just didn't know how to do this. One of the challenges that I experienced, and I saw that my fellow retreat participants also experiences, as women and women of color, we're all about giving to everyone else. And it's giving to the point where we don't even realize we're giving. I give freely, I give often, and I give to the point where I give past my own capacity and I don't even realize it. And giving in the sense of someone saying, hey, what time is such and such happening, or where's breakfast at? And that's me responding, is me giving. And I didn't think about that. And I didn't think about giving in that aspect or wanting to be helpful and fixing things. It's so common for someone to have an issue or problem or just bring up something, and we want to give. We want to give in the sense of we see someone's in need and we're giving because that's what we've been taught to do. That's kind of what we've done. And we don't think about that as that taking away from our undivided attention to ourselves. And in those moments of having those situations where my hand was basically slapped, not literally, but figuratively, for someone saying something and me responding, thinking, oh, what, I'm just being helpful, I didn't take that as taking away from giving myself my undivided attention. So in those moments, I was just like, yo, okay, I don't really know how to do this exactly because it's just so ingrained in me to hear something. And if I know the information, why would I not help? Which came to my second point of, interjecting my knowledge. I honestly believe I could be a great contestant on Jeopardy because I have the most random knowledge. I was that kid who loved reading encyclopedia books. When I was younger, I liked just learning different random things. And so when I hear things, it's just automatic. Like, yeah, of course, I know something, and not, let me first say, it's not of course that I know something. Of course, if I do know something, I usually will say something. Someone asked a question about geckos. There was this noise. It was like cookie or whatever kind of noise that this gecko was making. Being that I've been to Bali before, I totally knew what that sound was. And so when I started to give information, when someone asked, what is that noise? I'm like, it's a gecko. I was told, mind your business. And I was like, why is that not minding my business? I'm like, oh, wait, because I'm giving this information, again, helping. And it made me realize that one of the things that I do, or the one things that I learned, is that I use my intellect and helping as a way to validate who I am. And I never thought about that as a validator. It's like for me, how I validate my worth to some degree is being able to interject my knowledge and share my knowledge. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with sharing your knowledge? There's nothing wrong with sharing your knowledge. What comes into play is when you are telling yourself, I'm giving myself my undivided attention. Did I really need to give my knowledge? If giving my knowledge taking away from my energy, taking away from me, taking care of me? And I had to ask myself those questions. And when I was asking myself that questions, I was realizing I kind of guess I really don't need to always give people my opinions on things or my knowledge on things, because it does take away from my energy. You giving that energy of helping and interjecting your knowledge is taking away from yourself. And is it adding value to you? It may be adding value to someone else. And there's nothing wrong with adding value, and there's always a time and place for it. But if you're telling yourself you're giving yourself your undivided attention, then yeah, there's moments where it didn't make sense for me to give the information. And it was a challenge for me not to interject my knowledge, because I'm like, this is what I do. We were out one day. I think we were out one day doing some sightseeing. Part of the retreat was like we had moments of breaks. And I remember someone having a situation with their credit card, and they were new to traveling internationally. And I felt bad because I knew exactly how to help them. I knew what they were trying to do. They had a situation where the card wasn't working, or they thought the card was expired, even the card wasn't expired. And I knew all they needed to do was try one of the different ATM machines. And I wanted to say it. I felt so guilty for not telling this person. I'm like, oh my God, I could help this person. I could ease this person's mind with the knowledge that I have. But I gave myself the promise that I was giving myself my undivided attention, which meant no trying to fix anyone, no trying to help, no interjecting my knowledge. So I had to sit there. I sat there literally like, oh God, please let someone else say what I know. Just will someone else to tell her, try another ATM, try another ATM. And it was hard. It was literally not low-key whatsoever. It was freaking difficult for me not to open my mouth to interject like, hey, you just need to try another machine. And at the end of the day, I kept my promise to myself. And I was proud of that. I kept my promise to myself that I wasn't going to interject. I wasn't going to, feel like I had to help and fix anything. And so I kept quiet. And in keeping quiet, this person eventually figured out, hey, let me try another credit card machine and see if this works. And it worked. They didn't need me. And it was a reminder that I don't need to be the savior of a situation. I don't need to impart my knowledge on things. People will figure things out on their own. And that's something I never really thought about in my normal day-to-day life, and trying to figure out how can I give myself my undivided attention when I'm out and about, not just in Bali and somewhere else beautiful or on a retreat, but how can I do this when I'm back at home? And one of the things that came out of this and the lessons I learned was that I don't have to give out my information. People can figure it out on their own. It may take them a longer time. They may need days. They may need hours. They may need minutes. But it's not my role. I'm not getting paid to interject my knowledge. I'm not getting paid to help people. And even though I feel good about helping and giving my information, I had to check myself on why do I need to give this information? Why is this a situation that makes me feel valuable? And how can I find other ways to feel valuable and to validate myself versus needing that external moment of helping others to validate myself, which was an interesting self-reflection that I wasn't ready for. The other part of that situation that I found as challenging was I felt rude. I felt rude when I wasn't helping this person, like I was being rude for not helping them figure out something when they were in panic mode. But the other part of it was when I was trying to give myself my undivided attention in this amazingly beautiful resort we were at. We were at this Black-owned resort in Bali called Soulshine. It's owned by Michael Franti. This is an amazing musician. If you haven't heard of him or Soulshine, you need to look it up. It was bomb. It was just such a beautiful, beautiful resort that had yoga shalas. It had great food. Just everything about it was amazing. But, you know, when we're on there, the part of about being at this beautiful location is that they had this amazing staff of Balinese, employees that are completely helpful. They know your name. They will come up to you, ask, how are you doing? How's your day? What's beautiful about it? And they want to connect with you. And when I found myself feeling like I was being rude because I was like, well, I'm trying to give myself my undivided attention, but I also don't want to seem rude to these people who are making a point to go out of their way to check in and see how I'm doing, to connect with me. And so it was a balance about I didn't want to be like, no, I can't talk to you because I'm giving myself my undivided attention. I didn't want to be that person who was looking around like I don't see someone talking to me. And, and the same thing with other guests who we were making connections with and wanted to connect with you. And I felt rude when I was like, oh, no, I can't talk to you because I'm supposed to be giving my undivided attention. And it made me realize that I had to find a way to work through giving myself my undivided attention, but also figuring out what was my balance between connecting with other people. And so one of the advices that the retreat facilitator gave me that I thought was really helpful is that there's levels of undivided attention. It may be, that you're giving yourself, let's say 60% or 98% of your undivided attention, or there's levels and frequencies of the time frames when you are. There may be times where you're completely focused on giving your undivided attention, but there may be moments where you're saying, hey, I'm ready to go out there and play. I'm ready to be involved with someone. The other thing that was mentioned to me that I thought was super helpful was that it's okay to tell people hey, I love connecting with you, but right now I'm in the middle of working on something or kind of tuning into me. I'd love to continue this conversation another time. Would that be okay with you? It's okay to say, hey, right now I'm focusing on something else. I'm focusing on me, but I would love to connect with you at a later date. Can we make that happen? It's okay to ask for what you need. It's okay to let people know that, hey, I'm in the middle of something and I can't talk right now, but it doesn't mean I don't want to connect with you. And that little piece of knowledge of being able to inject to people that I'm busy right now, but it doesn't mean I need to ignore you, or it doesn't mean that I'm trying to ignore you, made me feel better about kind of having these type of interactions with people. And I didn't feel as rude when people came up to me, and I was being intentional about giving myself my undivided attention. Because when I didn't say that to people, I felt like the biggest bee. Oh my God, who do you think you are to ignore people when these people are trying to connect with you? And so that was helpful in being able to bring this concept of giving my undivided attention back to myself when I'm back at home. The other thing I realized that was really a challenge that I had in giving myself my undivided attention was that, Yeah, whether you call it observant, nosy, whatever, I like to know what's going on around me. I love being at a cafe or somewhere where there's tons of people around me because I love listening, learning, and experiencing all that's happening around me. But in doing so, I'm not giving myself my undivided attention because I'm listening to this conversation these two people are having at the pool. I'm listening to someone ordering some food and saying like, oh, what does the pizza look like? Because I've been wanting to order the pizza, but was kind of nervous that it wouldn't be like the pizza I have at home. And so I'm going to check that out. Oh, someone ordered a drink that sounds really interesting. Oh, what's going on over there? Like, are they playing music? I was involved in everything but myself. I realized that my being observant and my curiosity is great, and I love it. And I love it's a way that I learn about different things, and it's just who I am as a person. But my curiosity and my being observant, or some people would call nosy, I don't call it nosy. I just like to think that I'm observant because I don't need to be in everyone's business, but sometimes I like to hear what's going around me. But in doing so and being focused on being observant and being curious and wanting to always learn, I was taking away from my own capacity to love on me. I was taking away my capacity and my energy and my time for giving myself my undivided attention. Being in Bali was one of those rare moments where I was being allowed and asked to give myself my undivided attention. It was a time when there's no one I had to take care of. I didn't have to take care of my parents. I didn't have to worry about posting on social media or posting on a podcast episode or doing all the different things it takes to run a business or all these different things. I didn't have to worry about anyone but myself. So I had the opportunity and the energy and the time to give myself my undivided attention. But I found myself instead giving everyone else my attention because even if I wasn't talking to anyone, I was listening to absolutely everything going around me. And I had to learn how to maintain my focus in on me. Again, a little bit of a challenge, but once I started doing it and being intentional about it and giving myself grace when I didn't and kept going back to, okay, we got out of it, let's get back into giving my undivided attention, it became easier. It became easier not to say everything that I know. And I always thought that might have been like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do that. But I proved to myself within 7 days, yes, I could do that. I could give myself the opportunity to realize I don't have to always to interject what I know. I don't always have to fix things. I don't always have to listen. I found focusing in on my breath and breathing in moments when I was ear hustling like there was no tomorrow, when I felt like I needed to say something, I instead focused in on my breath, and that was my way of reconnecting with myself in a way that I hadn't done before. Doing it, giving yourself your undivided attention when you're by yourself and no one's around, there still are challenges because, again, there's social media. There is just anything on the web, like just getting on your phone and scrolling in the news and all these different things, I find takes away from giving myself my undivided attention, even when I'm alone. Netflix, or not even Netflix, we'll just say streaming services, are the same thing. I feel like when I am quote unquote trying to get my undivided attention and I'm by myself and I'm doing all these different things, I'm realizing that I'm not giving myself my undivided attention. And I realize that there are ways that even when I'm by myself, I can be doing a better job of giving my undivided attention. In person, I realize one of the greatest ways to give yourself your undivided attention is you don't always have to speak. Using nonverbal communication, like I can smile and acknowledge someone without having to engage them in a conversation. And that's one way to acknowledge someone and connect with people, but without having to take away a huge conversation and a chunk of you giving yourself your undivided attention. When I allowed myself to be committed to stop talking and being internally with me, when I allowed myself to not be on my phone, which is easier for me on vacation because I have come to the accustomed to not being on my phone when I'm on vacation. Yeah, sometimes I take some pictures here and there. I may often, what I like to do is I like to set aside a certain time where, okay, these are the time frames that I'm going to give myself to get any social media pictures that I want for my business or whatever, any videos, and then I'll kind of disconnect. And I've been able to do that. And that's one way that I've intentionally been able to give myself my undivided attention on vacations or just in life in general. And that's been great. But one thing I realized I was still doing was I was still getting on the streaming services. I was still scrolling different things. I was still listening to different things that's going on. And I was still finding ways to interject my knowledge. I'm like, oh, you're from Baltimore? I went to school in Baltimore. Where are you from? I'm like, oh, you're in the wellness industry? Oh, you do retreats? I do retreats too. And that was a way that I've always connected with people, but telling myself that, hey, you have an opportunity to not speak and instead listen to yourself and your own internal conversation was a gift that I was given by this retreat, but it was a gift that I allowed myself to actually receive that I hadn't been used to doing. So what did I learn? I learned that I don't need to escape to be by myself to give myself my undivided attention. I have the ability to give my undivided attention to myself in a group setting. I realized that my intellect I use my intellect and helping others as a way to validate myself. And that's something that I want to work on. I realize that I'm constantly ear hustling, and that also takes away from my attention for myself. And then something that, yes, I can work on. I did work on during this trip. And I don't always have to be in everyone's business. And yeah, I just don't. And I was like, oh, we can learn these different things. And the other part that I learned is that what helped me the most, besides maintaining my focus on me and committing not to speak and getting off of social media, committing that I don't have to be a part of everything, was focusing on my breath. Breath is bae. I say this constantly, and I realize my yoga practice really helps me get into this space where I can focus in on me. Through yoga, I can practice my undivided attention. Not even through yoga, through breathing, through being intentional about checking my inhale and my exhale, following my inhale and exhale, slowing down my breath, helped me realize that I can go in by just breathing. And it helped me in this situation. I feel like when I was able to give myself my undivided attention, the aha moments that I'd been looking for came so easily and effortlessly. I was just like, dang, I've been trying to figure this out for months, for years. Some of these things for years, I've been trying to figure out why these limiting beliefs were coming up and these narratives were coming up. And through giving myself my complete undivided attention, even in a group setting, I had these aha moments that were like, oh my God, this was so easy and it was right in front of me all this time, but I just hadn't given myself my undivided attention. And when you do, I will promise that things will come up that you need to hear. The conversations in your head, that not the negative narratives or the ego, because the ego will try to get you to be like, oh, well, this is who you are. You have to give. You have to tell people your knowledge, because how are people going to know that you're smart and you're worthy if you don't give this information? When you could get past that resistance of the ego and really tune in with who you are and getting into that inner voice that wants you to be great, that knows that you're amazing and doesn't need the validation from other people, that's when you get to the real conversations that you need to have with yourself, that clarity that you've been looking for. So Bali, once again, was fire. It was one of the situations where I thought I was going to go there and recreate what I did in 2019 and giving myself my undivided attention because I was escaping. But instead, I learned how to truly give my undivided attention in a way that I can take back home and thrive in. And that's the best thing about traveling. Traveling can give you the best insights that you take back home and make your life better at home. And so that's what I'm doing. It helps me in my pursuit of living hella well, to be able to take these moments and these experiences and to be able to incorporate it back into my life so I can live the life that I truly desire and not one that I'm settling for. One that tells me that I can't give myself my undivided attention, that tells me that I have to lock myself up in my apartment or that I have to escape on a solo trip to really get that time and that rest and that moment of connecting with myself. No, I could do that in a crowded concert and still be able to give myself my undivided attention because I'm worthy of it. On that note, I will talk to you guys next week. Ciao. Thanks for joining us this week on the Hello Well with Danielle show. Make sure to visit our website, hellowellwithdanielle.com, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music and never miss an episode. Also, you can follow us on social media at Hello Well with Danielle on Facebook and Instagram, and Hello Well Danny on Twitter. And if you like hella love the show and got some good nuggets out of it, know that I'm not too proud to ask for you to please leave a rating or review on iTunes so that we can continue to expand our reach and help other women of color. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you next week. Ciao.